Hi there, this is Srikanth. So in this lesson, we are going to learn about the various types of primitive data types in C++. Okay. So first, let me launch the IDE here, and let's create a new project here from File, New Project, and let's name our project as Types and Vars. Okay. So types and vars here. Okay. So whatever you wanted. So it creates the Visual Studio 2012 Express, creates a small project for us with all the empty folder structure here. So let's go to the source files folder and add a new item, a new source file. Okay, so let's name it as types.cpp. okay, so let's add all the basic stuff here like header files, so hash include studio, so hash include IO stream and hash include conio.h. okay, so let's add our main, so all the basic things, so whichever necessary. Let's add the getch function also. Okay, so there are 5 primitive data types in C++. okay, so they are as follows. First, let us write first in comment here: int, float, char, double, and bool here. Okay, bool or boolean. You can the data type is, the keyword is bool here, and we often pronounce it as boolean type. Okay, so first let us look into each of them. So how to declare, so how to define a variable for each and every data type here. So first let us take a variable name. So as you're all familiar with C programming, so whatever the rules that apply for defining a variable in C, the same applies in C++ as well. Okay, so first the variable name should always start with a letter. Okay, so if you do something crazy like this, my int, if you say something like this, it's gonna say report an error to us. Okay, so if you observe here, okay, the bad suffix on number. Okay, so ignored on the left to int. No, when no variable is declared, that is a warning here. So okay, so it should not it should always start with a letter, and there should be no special symbol except underscore. Okay, so underscores are acceptable, or else if you do something crazy like keeping an @ symbol, if you run the program, again it will throw you an error here. Okay, like unidentified unknown character. Okay, something whatever the error, it shows in the error message. Okay, so only underscores are allowed when you are defining a variable. Okay, so whenever you are defining a variable, only underscores are allowed, and it should start with a letter, and there should be no spaces in between. So all the basic rules, whatever we have studied in the C, so everything applies the same in C++. Okay, so here I am taking a variable for type myInt. Okay, so since C++, like C, is a strictly typed programming language, so we need to specify the type of data which we are going to define here. Okay, so the type is very essential. So unless and until you don't specify the type of the variable, so it's not going to allocate some memory to the variable. Okay, so that is type, specifying the type is very essential. So basic data types, let's write a comment on the top here. So basic data types are those, and let's define some variables. So defining data types. Okay, so defining data types, the syntax goes like this. So if you want to define a data type, define a variable of type int, you need to take the keyword int followed by the name of the variable. And also the variable names is always a best practice to be very more specific. Okay, so instead of using just a plain A or B or something like this, you need to be more specific when you are defining the variables like myInt or myNumber, depending upon the program you are writing. Okay, so if you are developing a small application for collecting the student data, so in that case you need to take the name of the variable like this: int roll number or something like this. Okay, so student data typically has roll number in the type of integer. Okay, so let's define another variable for our next basic data type, float. Let's say my float here. Okay, So let's define another variable. So keep on defining the variables for all the basic data types, where char, my char, and double, my double, double, my double, and bool. So let's say the name of the variable for bool is boolean here. Okay, so we have taken the 5 different variables for 5 different basic data types here. Okay, so if you want, you can assign a value to a variable mind directly at the time of defining. Okay, so that makes the declaration of an integer type. Okay, so if you assign value directly at the time of definition, it makes it as a declaration of an integer variable. That means, so defining just says that you are using a variable of certain name. Okay, so when you assign some value to that definition, it becomes declaration. So the meaning of declaration here is the compiler assigns some memory. Okay, some certain number of bytes. In this case here, int, it takes 4 bytes. In case of double, it takes 8 bytes. In case of long double, it takes 10 bytes, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you can do it directly here, or else for your convenience, you can take another variable, mind2. Okay, so you can do it separately here. Okay, at the time after initializing, so you can assign the values. Let's have a comment here, assigning values to variables. Okay, so you can do it separately, or else you can do it so you can do it at the time of definition, so according to your convenience. Okay, so you can take that mind. So if you observe here, so whenever I am trying to type my and underscore, the IntelliSense is automatically pointing whatever the variables I have taken at the beginning here. Okay, so you can select them and you can just simply press enter, and you can say some 20 or 30, you can assign some value to it. Okay, so that is another way. You can do it at the time of definition directly, or else you can do it separately after defining all the variables. You can have assign some values to it. Okay, so in the same way, let's assign some value to my float also here. So let's say 3.14, which is the value of pi. Okay, so let's go to full screen here. Okay, so in the same way, so coming to character, as we have know in C, while you are assigning values to character, you need to be enclosed that particular value in quotations here. Okay, so that makes the compiler to understand that the user or programmer is trying to assign a value of type char here. Okay, so next double, so my double, so is equal to, let's have some more number of values in the precision. Okay, so double, the only difference between the float and double is that the both will handle the values in rational form. That means a decimal and integer and a fraction part here. Okay, so double has more higher range and greater precision. Okay, the precision, so what is precision? So precision is the number of values which are allowed after the decimal point here. Okay, so float just handles only up to 6 digit precision. So double is higher range, double the precision. That means until 14 values you can until 14 digits you are allowed to have after the decimal point here. Okay, so double is always a good practice to use double when you need to store, or in your calculations when you do in fraction part. Always the best practice to use double. Okay, double has a wider range and higher precision values here. Okay, so coming to boolean, we have taken the variable as boolean. Let's say boolean is equal to true. Okay, so boolean variable bool data type handles only two values. Okay, either true or false. The true is regarded as 1 and false is regarded as 0. Okay, so let's now output the values. I am writing a comment here, output the values to screen. So whatever the values you have stored in the variable, with the help of our cout statement, which we have seen in the last lesson, the value of my int, okay, the value of my int is equal to, let's say, my underscore int here. Okay, so I have just outputted the value using the help of a cout statement here. So value of my int, just a small message and the name of the variable here. Okay, it's showing as an error because we haven't used the namespace thing here, namespace std. Okay, So in the same way you can, so until now if you run the program and you see the output here, so you get exactly whatever the value you have stored inside the, so whatever the value you have stored inside the mind, you get that exactly the value 10 here. Okay, so here you have 10 in the variable mind and you are getting that output. Okay, so let's make our screen a bit bigger by increasing the font value. Okay, so value of mind is 10. Okay, so in the same way, so you can keep on writing the cout statements in order to do print out all the values here. Okay, so if you say the value of my float is equal to, okay, so simply my float here. Okay, so in the same way you can output the remaining values, whichever you stored in the variables, the value of my char is my char. Okay, so next the value of my double is equal to my double here. Okay, and the last one which we have taken is Boolean with the keyword bool. Okay, so let's say the value of Boolean is equal to, okay, Boolean is equal to Boolean. Okay, so now if you run your application once again, so you get the output for all the values which were stored in the corresponding variables here. Okay, so if you observe with the Boolean, it's not the, so in the Boolean we have assigned the value true to the Boolean value, but if you observe in the output carefully, so you get here 1, because the true is interpreted as an integer 1 here. Okay, so if you take another variable, okay, so let's come out of this running. So if you take another variable like bool and say, sorry, let's take it at the time of definition only. So bool, let's say Boolean 2. Okay, so bool Boolean 2, and let's assign some different value to that Boolean 2 here. So let's say false here. Okay, so here what I have done is I have taken another variable Boolean 2 and I am assigning a value false to it. Okay, so now if you make use of the cout statement to print that value stored in the Boolean 2 variable, the value of Boolean 2 is equal to Boolean 2 here. Okay, so now if you run your application, so if you observe here, the value of Boolean 2 is now 0. Okay, that's because we have assigned the value to the Boolean data type as false here. The false is interpreted as 0 and the true is interpreted as 1. Okay, so that's the basic difference between those both values in the case of Boolean here. Okay, so this is the basic stuff about the primitive data types in C++. To summarize once again, so what we have done, so here we have taken variables for all the 5 different basic data types in C, which is int, float, char, double and bool here. Okay, so the next step we have assigned some constant values to each and every variable, like int 30 constant, and its floating point holds the rational values like integer part and fraction part, and character we have assigned some special symbol like $ wrapped in the quotations here. Okay, so Boolean, coming to the Boolean, which is of type bool, so here Boolean is the name of the variable of type bool, which handles either true or false. Okay, so which handles either true or false. So that's what we have done. When coming to in the next third step, so we have outputted each and every individual value whichever is stored in the variables with the help of the cout statement. Okay, so see you in the next lesson. Goodbye.